Dr. Gladys McGarey, welcome to the
Yes.
show. I'm very excited to have you here. And I want to just ask you a question right out of the gate that I typically ask my guests at the end of the episode, but I'm very curious to your answer now. Moving forward in life is sometimes easier said than done. To keep moving ever forward, as I say, takes resiliency and developing strength of the mind and the body. So I'm curious to hear your interpretation of living a life ever forward. How do you keep moving forward in life?
There's always something to be done in my life. It's when I wake up in the morning, I say my little prayer and I think, now, what is there to do today? And it's been, one day at a time. And trying to live that day to the fullest, moving constantly. Some aspect of my being has to keep moving, even if I have to sit there and knit little washcloths or something. My hands have to move, or something has to keep moving, because life itself needs to keep moving.
I'm
For
hearing
me,
in your
for
answer,
everybody,
for you and for everybody, I would really implore everyone to take note of two key things you said there. It sounds like daily having purpose and daily having movement. Can you kind of walk us through, please, how can we keep finding purpose day to day? Because that can be a very challenging thing for many people. And then we'll get into the movement. So how do you find purpose every day?
well, even if you pay any attention to your body, you have to understand that each breath is important, and that each aspect of who and what we are is something that no one else in the whole wide world can do. I kind of look at it as a huge jigsaw puzzle, and we each have our own little special place, which is different. There isn't anybody else that can fit into. I've tried, ponding a piece into a jigsaw puzzle. It doesn't work. But when it fits, it fits. If you've done a 1,000 piece jigsaw puzzle piece, and you get to the end and one piece is missing, you drive yourself crazy trying to find that one piece. But this whole concept that each one of us has a very special place, which is ours alone, and there isn't anybody in the whole wide world that can fit in that piece.
I could not agree more.
Hello?
And, oh, can you hear me?
Video went away again.
This is
Yeah, we
probably
can hear.
an issue with the Wi-Fi. So how this platform works, it will kind of throttle depending on the bandwidth, the connection strength, really. So I apologize on my end. I'm very close to my router. It might just be dipping in and out, but you can still hear me, correct?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Okay. Okay,
And
good.
that's
So
all
we'll just
right.
keep
I have
we'll
my
keep
hearing
rolling
aids in.
Hopefully the video will pop back up.
That's
Luckily, the platform, it keeps recording. So I got the video on my side, and then it will give me yours. So we don't lose it for the recording. I'll just have
There
to
you
go back and
are.
stitch it in. There we go. I'm back. All right. So it just takes a little second to catch up.
Right.
But I think your point about trying to force ourselves into the puzzle, trying to force a piece of this puzzle of life, is somewhere we all have been, and maybe someone is there right now, but maybe they don't realize it. Dr. Gladys, can you help us maybe understand how to take a step back and see if we are trying to force the puzzle piece versus, maybe this is just a difficult time, and how to maybe go about finding a different puzzle piece to smooth out this current season of life?
Well, for me, it's looking for the light or being stuck in the darkness. I can continue to look over my shoulder at all the problems and stuff that I've carried along with me, and I could get stuck and get a stiff neck on that one. But if I can really get the movement of looking forward and upward towards the light, it feels so much better, and my body feels better, my thoughts feel better, they are brighter and just different, totally different from looking back into the pain and difficult darkness, which we can all get stuck there sometimes. It's just part of the human psyche, that there are times that we need to just not, people say, oh, well, get over it. I don't agree with that, because you can get over it and get stuck there. But if you can live through it, live through the steps that you've taken, live through the process, then you've learned something, and your body has learned something, and so your heart and your psyche and your world has learned something, and you move into a different place. You're not that stuck place that, for me it's kind of like if I fall and cut my arm, and it scabs over, and that's fine. But if I sit there and pick at that scab all the time, it's never going to heal. My job is to accept the fact that this is injured, and it needs my attention while I let it repair itself, and I do the things that are necessary to have that happen. And then sometimes, years later, I can look back at my arm and say, oh, hello, I remember you, because there's a scar there, but there's no pain with it. The pain is gone.
When you say look to the light, are you referring to our purpose? Are you referring to something else? What do you mean by look to the light?
I'm referring to what it is within each one of us that makes our hearts sing and makes us light up, makes us feel like, well, this is worthwhile. Each one of us has that special aspect of our being that knows what's right for us. And I can explain and do things for somebody else and try to if they don't understand it, and they don't get it, or they're not looking for it, it may not happen then. It may take a lot longer for them to really live to the point where they can live it through and learn the lesson that aspect of their whole lifetime on this earth is trying to teach them.
Learning the lessons
Which
of life's difficult times is the most challenging thing, I think, for all of us, right? Because we're still in it, and we haven't developed enough maybe time or space or awareness to turn and look at it kind of objectively. Would you agree? We need to kind of separate ourselves from that experience a bit more to choose to find the lesson, right?
Right, and sometimes it's having movement in our community. Maybe there's something that is not helpful to us in our forward movement that's kind of holding us back. If we can allow ourselves to look at that for what it is, and either just let it go, the Kuch Parwani, it doesn't matter. We carry a lot of stuff that does not support us, and that stuff we have to let go. But if it's not one of those things, And there's a movement. It's like Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was a good friend of mine. We used to spend lecture platforms where she talked about moving into the next dimension, and I talked about being birthed into this dimension. We enjoyed each other a lot.
Amazing. She wrote the book on grief, right? Understanding grief, correct?
Death and dying, yeah, the whole picture of death and
On
dying.
death and dying, yes, yes.
And she was living in Virginia. Yeah, yeah. She was living in Virginia during the time when the AIDS epidemic was so hot, and she was trying to build a birthing place for the babies who were being born with AIDS in the community there in
Wow.
Virginia. And somehow the community rejected her and felt that she was bringing something bad into the community. So they did really cruel things. They killed her llama and destroyed things on her property, and
Oh my gosh.
finally burned her whole house down. All the books that she had signed by Gandhi and all kinds of important people, the treasured
Oh
things that
no.
she had in this house, they burned it down when she was on a lecture tour. So she had the option of staying there and trying to get the community to understand what she was doing, and finally realized that there was no moving forward in that one. I mean, the community was stuck. So it was really important. Her son came, she packed a little suitcase, got her on the plane and brought her out here where he was living. And so from then, she built a house out in the desert and continued her work. But it was letting go of something that was so high on her priority list for doing. She felt that she was going through the process of feeling that this is something that I could really do and help. And it went. She was, it couldn't happen. The community couldn't accept it. So I think there are times where there are things, and it doesn't have to be that tragic. There can be something. Maybe it's one person in our community that is just, doesn't go forward with us, but is pulling us back. Maybe we need to move away from that. Or maybe we just need to say, oh, kuch parwani, it doesn't matter, and let it go. We have to, those are things we have to think through, live through, and go to the next step forward.
You've mentioned, movement a couple of times, and in the process of moving forward in life, literal physical movement I know is very important. And I understand that you have a
Right.
unique now daily physical movement goal, correct me if I'm wrong, of about 4,000 steps. Is that correct? Close to it?
With my walker, yes. I have a
And so
walker, the two of us. His name is Skywalker, and we walk.
I love that you have names for your walkers. That's very human of you. That's great. I'm curious though,
Yeah.
what role has physical activity played in your life? And do you attribute daily physical activity to being a strong force as to your health and where you are now over 100 years old?
Absolutely. Well, my first 2 years in grade school were very, very difficult for me because I didn't know what was wrong, but we had no name for it, but it was dyslexia. And I couldn't read and I couldn't write, so I was the class dummy. And so I was really picked on. The teacher called me the class dummy, and I flunked first grade, and so I had to repeat it with the same teacher and a different class of kids, but it was, I, my psyche was deeply hurt at that time. However, I was blessed with a family like you were, with a family that had, my parents were osteopathic physicians who went to India as Presbyterian
During
missionaries
World War
to help the
One,
people.
correct?
And yes, yeah, I, I was born in 1920, so it was after World War. Yeah, when did World War One? That was in. Well, I get a decades go telescope
You've
for
seen a
me.
few.
So
You've seen a few.
anyway, yeah. So I was, I grew up in the jungles of North India, and I ran the, and my parents were just amazingly helpful. So in the process of this whole living through the damage that I was feeling, my family was pivotal in helping me with that. My ayah, the wonderful woman who was a totally illiterate person, but a center for love for me, that I could come up from school looking, we lived in the Himalayas, school was in the Himalayas, and Aya would be sitting at the top of the hill, and she'd see me dragging my little old body up the hill, and she'd yell at me, "Idra, come here." And I'd go running over, and I'd cuddle in under her shawl, which I have here with me here still to this
Oh,
day.
wow.
And allow all of that stuff to go someplace, and then get up the next day and be able to move forward into the stuff. Well, by the time I got to third grade, this teacher saw something in me that the other one had not seen, and she appointed me class governor, which amounted to the fact that I was the one that took our class story to the whole student body. And, I could talk. I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I couldn't add, I couldn't subtract. I really couldn't. The numbers were all over the place. But I could talk. And if you could, I could talk in Hindustani, I could talk in English, depending who I'm talking to. I mean, talking was good. And so this one time, our class had the opportunity of having a play called The Frog Jumped Over the Pool. And I was the frog. And I was very proud of that. My mother made me a little frog suit, and I walked in front of the whole student body, and I walked out onto the platform. But just as I was walking out, I saw my two older brothers in the front row of the whole auditorium, and it threw me off my step just enough that instead of jumping over the pond, I landed in it.
Oh, no.
And so I'm standing in that. My suit is beginning to fade. I'm in tears. I can't move. I'm absolutely stuck there. The teacher has to come and lead me off the platform. So, my great triumph was a total disaster. However, the audience was absolutely hysterically laughing.
Oh, I bet.
And thought it was, including my brothers. So, so we're at dinner at home, and my brothers are telling the rest of the family what had happened. I'm trying to give them the devil's eye, and they're not paying any attention. And so it was going on until finally my mother said to them, "All right, boys, now you've had your fun. What can we do as a family to help Gladys, and if she ever gets into this kind of a situation again, that she will be able to have the people laugh with her, not at her?" And that whole process was a turning point in my life because I still have the issues of being clumsy. I trip when I, don't need to and all that. So there have been many times when I've stepped up to a podium and, either bumped into the podium and been on. I'm awkward. When I walk around, not all the time, but this is what I am. My brother, who is an amazing doctor. That's part of the family story. But he called me Dauber, and which meant in Hindustani, clumsy bucket. So anyway, this was his pet name for me, which
Clumsy
he called
bucket,
me
all right.
till the day he died. I mean, it was not something that was horrible. It was something that was, a tender. And anyway, you take these things, you learn from them. And my mother, in saying that to me, and saying it to the rest of the family, absolutely turned the tide, so that now I, I can trip and say to the audience, "Oh, I'm such a drama queen," or something that comes to me, and I have my audience in my hand before I ever start talking. It's taking what comes to you and doing something with it and moving forward in the process. Aren't we lucky, you and I, to have had the families that we had? It's more
Absolutely.
than luck. It's just a total blessing.
It is, and I couldn't
Yeah.
agree more with a lot of what you said in there, especially when we're looking at our communities and our families. But the kind of short lesson there that I extracted was when we choose to move forward, when we choose movement in our life, movement of thought, moving forward of body, these daily choices to advance our lives, we're not also going, okay, just because I choose to move forward means I'm not going to have any obstacles. I might even be the obstacle. I might be the clumsy bucket. I might be the one, causing some of my own problems. But as long as we keep choosing movement, keep choosing to move forward, physically, mentally, emotionally, we will learn how to navigate those awkward moments or those hiccups or those obstacles. We will learn how, when we fall down, how to, literally when we fall down, to pick ourselves back up again. And when we fall down in life, when things seem to be working against us, when we lose our job, go through a breakup, go through an injury, all these areas that seem to knock us down, it's only by choosing to move forward will we learn how to. Absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of think of it too, like I have a flashlight in my hand, and there are times when I'm walking along a dark path, and the only thing I can see is one step further ahead. So I'm walking that path. But if I'm walking that path, sometimes I can see a little light at one side or another, a little glimmer of light or here or there. If I take my flashlight and put it on the light that's there, it lights up that other little light that was just barely holding on, and gives them a whole new view of what their path is right there. And in the process of my helping them, I help myself not to be stuck in the dark place that I'm going towards.
Beautiful. Well said. Absolutely.
It's very helpful to be.
Gladys, I want to kind of shift a
Yeah,
little bit into your
it helps
career.
me.
Good. Absolutely. It helps you, and by sharing it here, you're helping others. So thank you. I want to shift a little bit into your career as a practitioner, a healer. You have been a medical doctor for many, many years, and in your latest book, and now in your medical consulting and your former practice, you've helped heal a lot of people. But for someone that has had this profession or any profession for so many decades, I bet you have seen some really interesting transitions. And personally, someone who believes that there is a blend, a necessary blend of holistic care with traditional allopathic care to truly nurture and heal humans, we don't always see that. And I know that that has been a big point to your work from the very beginning. In fact, creating the founder of the holistic medicine movement. And so I'm curious,
Right.
why do you think it is so important to be mindful of these other properties of medicine beyond just treating sick care? What is so important about these other contributing factors for humans to get us well and keep us well outside of traditional medicine?
Well, I watched my parents heal with no technology practically. They had a trunk that had some things in it, but it was their presence and their love for the people that did the healing. So I grew up watching that. But then when I was in medical school, and it was during World War II, and everything that was, we were, and we still are, focused on curing diseases, getting rid of diseases, and helping people with pain. Well, I was looking for something more than that. The dean sent me to the psychiatrist 2 different times because she didn't think I had the right attitude.
Oh,
but,
no.
The psychiatrist sent me right back, so I had to go on with the whole process. But when my oldest son came through Phoenix as trained he was a trained orthopedic surgeon, and he came through Phoenix. He was on his way down to Del Rio, Texas, where he was going to start his practice. And he said to me, "Mom, I'm real scared." He said, "I have all this training, amazing training, but I'm going to have people's lives in my hands." He said, "I don't know if I can handle that." And I said to him, "Well, Carl, if you think that you're the one that does the healing, you have a right to be scared. But if you can understand that it's your job to do this amazing work called orthopedic surgery, which I'm telling you, if I need to have orthopedic surgery, that's what I need. It's what, it's there for actual healing. But as you're doing that, you, with love, reach and understand the colleague that you have, which is the physician within that patient." So as you do your work, you turn the actual healing process over to the patient themselves. Now they have the opportunity of either accepting what you're doing in a loving manner or not. And if they don't accept it, if they're supposed to do certain exercises or certain things and they're not doing it, that's really not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to do what you've been trained. You understand. You, the physician within you, make colleagues out of the physician with each patient you work with.
I think if more traditionally trained doctors and healers adopted that philosophy, I think probably not only would their profession be a lot smoother and perhaps have a lot less stress, because speaking from experience, having worked in healthcare, I know many, many times, many doctors get so frustrated because they feel like they are banging their head up against a wall or are just navigating more conflict and arguments with the patient than being able to develop synergy and develop a working relationship out of love to help them heal and to help them be a better healer as well. So I really hope that more healers take note of what you just said.
Well, and I would like to have that taught more in the schools, no matter whether it's a naturopath, osteopath, whatever. I have a friend who's a neurosurgeon, really wonderful man, and he was telling me the other day that he works at helps with the residents in I don't know, it's ASU or one of the other hospitals around. I mean, schools around. Anyway, he was going with one of the residents into a room to work with a patient. And when he got to the door, the resident was standing there on the outside of the door. And he says, all right, let's go in. And she says, what do you mean go in? We don't need to go in. And he said, what? He says, she said, that patient has Alzheimer's. He's not going to understand anything that we say to him. And my friend said, no, you don't understand. You have two patients in there. You have his wife and himself. Now we go in to work with, we go in to work with the man who has Alzheimer's, but his wife is the one who's going to do this whole treatment. We have to go in and we have to touch him. Mm. And for her, it was almost, she was, in fact, I think it's very important that we teach our students the importance of touch and the importance of actually understanding who it is and what we're working with. You see, the problem is we are taught about the disease and about the pain, and the patient gets lost.
Absolutely.
And when that happens, it's very sad.
This brings me to one of the 6
That's why we started American Holistic Medical.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And thank you for doing so. This brings me to one of your 6 areas in your book, that your secrets, absolutely, about living this long, healthy, happy life. Your 6 secrets to medicine and to happiness, and that is that love is the most powerful medicine. And I know you kind of just talked a little bit about that in that example with the neurosurgeon, but I'm curious. I think a lot of people might be surprised to hear that a doctor is saying that love is the most powerful medicine. Why did this make the cut? Why is this one of your most important secrets here for a happy, healthy, long life?
Because I think it's the most important one, I also have 5 L's that I think are important. I created these 5 L's in my head because I was trying to put some structure to the thoughts I was pulling together. The first 2 are life and love. Life and love are like the seed of the pyramid that's been there for 5,000 years. All the life of the universe is within that seed, but it can't do anything until love, in the form of water and sunshine and so on, makes the seed break its shell, and all the life moves out, and there you are. It's like a pregnancy. A pregnancy is an amazing symbol for me because I love working with birthing, basing, so on. Anyway, the mother and the baby are one unit for 7 months, 9 months, however long it's going to be. They're one unit. What the mother thinks, the baby thinks. What the mother eats, the baby eats. It's a total one unit process. But it becomes, they have to live together as one until it's time. And timing is essential in this process. until it's time for that baby to take its first breath. And when that baby takes its first breath, it just then becomes, it claims its own true humanity, and it moves into that. So it's this process of love and life being actually in it. It's like the sperm and the ovum. One can't do it right without the
Truly,
other.
truly.
The third, yeah. So the third L is laughter. Laughter without love is cruel. It tears families apart. It's cold. It's wars are created. You know, laughter without love is really very, very harmful. But laughter with love is joy and happiness. And the fourth one is labor. Labor without love is drudgery. Oh man, I gotta go to work, too many diapers, all of these things. You drag yourself through it, and it's real hard work. But then, when you find what it is that you really are working for or want to do, it's bliss. That's when you work twice as hard, work 17 times as hard,
Yeah,
and
raising my hand to that one over
it's
here.
your joy. Yeah. And the fifth one is listening. Listening without love is empty sound. It's what I was talking to my orthopedic son about. He needs to do his works, and then let the patient listen enough that they can understand what it is that he's saying. It's that cooperation. It's to be able to share. But if you can't, if you don't listen, it's an empty sound. But listening with love is understanding. That's when you begin to understand what the other one is saying and doing and working with, and that's healing. And that's what I knew my mother's were doing in the jungles of North India. It's what I knew. And so when we started our practice and we began working with things, we did start the American Holistic Medical Association, but it took us 2 years to decide how to spell holistic, because
I heard,
the
yeah.
root word we were looking was health, healing, and holy. And when we finally latched onto that, we were able to say, no, take W out and put the H in.
I've heard you talk about this before, and I love this statement you made about it, about how you wanted to bring spirit back into medicine. And is this what you're talking about here, kind of the influence behind the spelling of holistic with the W or without? What role does spirit play in medicine?
Well, it's the light, it's the juice, it's the what makes our hearts sing. It's that inner, which allows us to understand why we're alive. See, I have a kind of a think that says that now this is not my theology, it's my thoughts. That when God, whatever God is to whoever, when God created the earth, it was beautiful, and he looked at, and everything was right, everything was in its place, and everything was doing what it was supposed to be doing. And then he created the human being, and he said to us as humans, now you are the only beings on this earth that have choice and free will. So therefore, I give you dominion over this whole process, beautiful process I've created. And we, in our arrogance, decided that he was saying dominance. Well, there's a difference between being dominant and being able to do anything you chose to the things that were there, or
Absolutely.
dominion, which means taking care of. We were asked to be the caregivers. And you know what I'm finding now? It's like E.T. E.T. was looking for home.
Right.
You and I and a lot of people who are walking down this path right now are looking for our way home, our true humanity. And our true humanity says we are the caregivers, not just of ourselves and our own body and mind and spirit, but of our community and our world. And it's that huge, amazing, beautiful, gorgeous job that we have to do,
Yeah.
that when you wake up in the morning and you think, I get to do this job, it's you don't drag yourself through it.
Very well said. Very well said. Gladys, I want to ask a couple unique questions now because I don't know if maybe you spend a lot of time on social media or see a lot of the current health trends, wellness trends, longevity trends that are happening right now, but some of them include things, a lot of unique daily habits, very long, drawn out morning rituals, evening rituals, cabinet full of supplements, cold plunging, sauna therapy, hot cold therapy. And a lot of us are doing these things now to not only help us feel our best, look our best today, but we believe, and we do have a lot of great science showing it can contribute to living a longer, happier, potentially happier, but higher quality of life. And so I'm curious now, with someone like yourself who is pushing 103 years old, do you cold plunge every day? What have been some of your daily health habits that you feel contribute to your longevity now? And do you think maybe what we are doing nowadays is too much? Are we trying to do too much and maybe we just need to go back to some basics? And what are those basics?
It's a totally individual choice. Everybody can't get up and do you know, I, I'm not going to go. I have to walk with a walker, crying out loud. You find what it is that you can do yourself. So how can I tell? I've been asked this question. I can't tell you how many times over the air. It it's what the individual person can do themselves, and what makes them want to do it. I mean, Skywalker and I we've become good friends, and it's a matter of, if I didn't use my hearing aids, I couldn't hear what you were doing. If I didn't have the work done with my eyes and help with that, I couldn't be seeing what I'm seeing. It's a matter of taking what's there, and in my mother's words, make do. You make do with what you've got. Make do the best that you can do with it, and you know what? It turns out pretty darn well, you know. And if you can put some humor into it, it can be darn funny. I'd had my 99th birthday, and I was coming out of the grocery store afterwards with my cart, and I had some things in it, and so I was starting to pick them up and put in my car, and this elderly gentleman came along, and he said, "Oh, may I help you?" And I said, "No, no, no, I can do this." And he says, he stands up straight, and he says, "Well, I'm 86." And I turned around and said to him, "And I'm 99." And I marched off and got into my car. And I said to him in my car, and I said, "You nasty old woman." So I'm sitting there pulling myself out for this and thinking, you better go back, you go into the grocery store and tell him sorry. And finally, as I was talking myself into that, I got to laughing, and I started thinking, what a crazy thing this is, a comedy scene. Two kindergarten kids in the sand pile, tried to, up to it. And I sat there
Trying
and
to just
laughed
one
and
up
laughed
each
until I
other.
couldn't start my car. Yeah, yeah. So it's that kind of thing, taking, and that's what my mother would call make do. You know, I made do and actually made myself laugh because really I thought that was a terrible thing to say to that. He was just trying to be nice.
So I don't hear cold plunging in your future anytime soon, but absolutely just doing what you can throughout the day and having that belief system behind it.
Do the make do. You
Make
make
do.
do. There's some things you can do, some things you can't do, and if you can't do it, all right, find out what you can.
I like it. I like it. I have one more question for you. You ready to round out the interview with me here?
Sure.
All right. I love this one of your secrets here in the book. Spend your energy wildly. How did you come up with that, and what do you mean
Yeah.
by spend your energy wildly? I have my own interpretation, but I would love to hear yours.
Well, I think that's what it is. It's the importance of understanding that your life energy is you can't bank it. You can't stuff it in a drawer and say it's going to be, you know, it's what has to be moving, has to work, and so on. But the fact of the matter is that when you actually do use it that way, it's wild. I mean, I can't even begin to put my mind around the whole fact that I'm talking to people around the world about this stuff. I was, I'm going to be talking to somebody in Australia.
Wow.
It's, I, it, you know, this spending my energy wildly. It would be easier for me. No, it wouldn't be easier. No, I actually enjoy this. So it's a matter of relating to people who are like you, like me, looking for our true humanity. And that is just a huge bucket of energy that you can't put in the bank. You can't even identify what it is because it's moving so fast that from one moment to the next the energy is growing, it's moving forward, it's a moving target. And so it's that process of life itself. If we are really engaged with life, it's a wow. It just plain is wow.
It is. And I think for anybody listening that maybe disagrees or is confused as to where is this wilderment in my life, I will challenge you here. I think if it's not already there, given your circumstances, your environment, your life, your nature, your nurture, it's up to you. It's up to you, like what we've been talking about, to make the choice. I want to live a wild life. I want to spend my energy wildly because, to your point, we cannot take it with us. So if we have it here and now, and if we can generate more here and now for our own posterity and to help us move forward in life, that also is very positively contagious, I believe. Others will see that, they will feel it, and they will want
And
more of
it's
that.
not it doesn't mean foolishly. It
Right,
means
right.
wise.
I like it. Well, Gladys, actually, one final question, one final question just popped in my mind before we hop off here. Just someone who is, I've said several times now, pushing 103 years old. I'm curious, as you look back on the world, not necessarily your life, but humanity and all the places that you have lived and traveled and the patients and people that you have helped heal, looking back at 103 years of humanity, in your opinion, what do you think is the one thing that we have gotten right? What is one thing that you look at humanity over the last 103 years and go, I'm so proud that humans have done this and have been able to keep this or fight for this? What is that one thing we should keep holding on to and keep fighting for?
Love. Love. It's that central answer to how we
We can leave it at love. I think that speaks volumes, and it is. It's very true. It's very true. And so, for everybody listening and watching for the next 103 years, let's just keep focusing more on love, and I think we'll have a lot more healthy, happy people. Yeah. Gladys, thank you so much for your time. This has been an amazing time, and I can't wait to share this with the world.